Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mama Genius Hub. We have a surprise in store for you. I brought her on, Melina Kane, just because I need the help. She's our declutter queen, and we're going to talk about decluttering physically and mentally because we can carry some baggage with us. So let's get into that intro and we'll get started in just a moment. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. So again, I have Melina Kane with us, who is a certified life coach and professional organizer and helps overwhelmed moms clear the clutter in their homes, heads, and hearts so they can stay focused on what truly matters. As moms of littles, she's found herself drowning in stuff, I'm sure we all have, constantly stressed and lacking purpose in her days. She discovered that she reclaimed her sanity, joy, and sense of self-simple by removing the clutter from her home. Now she helps other moms who are drowning in the season of overwhelm live their best versions. Welcome, Melina. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Hello. I love being here with you, Michelle. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I just like to go, we're just going to dive right in with what is your why behind wanting to do this?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I think everybody has a really cool story to tell. My shortened version is, frankly, I didn't think I would be here where I am today, like doing this, being an entrepreneur. But to be honest, like I feel like the last 4 years, 5 years, a lot of people didn't see coming either, right? I think everyone has gone little twists and turns in their story and what their plans were. I'm a planner. And again, like 10 years ago, if you'd have told me this is what I'd be doing, I'd been like, like I wouldn't have seen it coming. I wouldn't have seen it coming. So my big why, honestly, is that I just love to serve others. I desperately needed somebody that was like me, this person that is naturally organized, that has this big heart and empathy to help serve other moms. I needed her like 7, 8 years ago. And I basically like patchworked all this information, all this research, all this reading, all these podcasts to figure this stuff out on my own. And I did it. It took a long time and a lot of frustration, a lot of tears. And so honestly, for me, it's like, I just want to be able to kind of pay it forward for the rest of the women and the moms out there, and just kind of share what I've learned and just be there and just be in their corner, just rooting for them. So that's my big why as to why I'm here today doing what I'm doing.
I love that so much. And I feel like some of the biggest things that really bring that out, especially when it comes to clutter and things, is that feeling of guilt of that I haven't done that. Like I can't keep up as a mom. I feel like a failure. I feel like guilt. How do you address that for women that come towards you?
Yeah, the guilt's real. I mean, the guilt's really hard. I mean, for me, I felt, because I was a full-time working mom. Then I decided to be a stay-at-home mom due to health issues for myself, mental, emotional, physical health issues that I was struggling with. And then I became a homeschool mom, and now I'm an entrepreneur mom. So I guarantee you, in that rainbow, there is all sorts of guilt, like just sprinkled in there on any given day. And so I think honestly, the guilt piece of it is one of the biggest drivers for women and for moms to really stay stuck where they are. Because it's like we get told this story of like, just give yourself grace, just give yourself a little room, all these kind of things. However, all that we see out there on Instagram, on YouTube, like we're not really going into everyone's homes all the time now, right? So it's just like the virtual world that we're seeing, we see all this perfection. We see these standards. We see these women who have teams of people helping them that look well rested, that have a clean home, and apparently know how to cook really good meals, right? And the rest of us are just drowning in that because we're like, signing up as a mom, I didn't realize there was about 20 different jobs just under the umbrella of being a mom. And so for those of you that struggle with perfection, like I do, I'm a recovering perfectionist, it's very easy to just stack yourself up against other moms. And unless you have like a group of women that really just make it okay to be vulnerable and to talk about these things, a lot of times you're just sitting in your guilt, you're sitting in your shame, you're sitting in your like not enoughness. And that's just the story, the reel that goes on in your head every day as you're moving through motherhood. Because, um, I mean, frankly, in my opinion, being a mom is the hardest job in the world. And there is so much refinement being a mom. And I didn't realize there was going to be such a mirror held up on yourself as a mom. Like, if somebody told me that, like, hey, yeah, being a mom is amazing. And guess what? You're going to learn a lot about yourself. So just buckle up, buckle up for basically the rest of your life. And I probably would have been like, I'm going to think about this just a little bit longer because I feel like I'm a good person. But that mirror starts looking pretty frosted after a little while. So, yeah.
I love that. I was writing that down. I just wanted to repeat that. When you're sitting in guilt, shame, not enoughness, it's like a reel of your life just playing through your head. Like I wrote that down so we could like break that down a little bit more, because it's true that we play those stories in our heads. And I love how you were talking about community and stuff, because honestly, there's two ways to get things out of your heads. And the first way is by saying it out loud. Well, actually, usually it's the first way. It's by getting it on a piece of paper, journaling it, right? But then the second way is actually saying it out loud to another. But it's that vulnerability, having that safe space to do it, because we don't always have that. And I love that you were talking about how to provide that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. I mean, from my personal experience, when I first became a mom, I didn't have that community. As a working mom, I think it's when you work outside the home, or honestly inside the home, I think it's very hard to find community, like genuine, authentic community, again, where you aren't constantly comparing yourself to the other person. And because you're just very busy, your day is full. And, you know, it, it's one of those things of like being able to trust another mom in letting her in on all of the quote unquote failures that you're doing in your day. Because again, I think whether you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom or anything in between, you always have one foot somewhere, right? It's very hard to
Or
be
two.
or two, or it's like it's just there's always something that you'd rather be like investing in your time. So, not always, but sometimes. Again, that's the message that a lot of times we get told ourselves. So I think what's important is like eventually I found community, but those first few years were so isolating. And again, especially when you're a new mom, I mean, again, there's no manual. You have no idea what you're doing. And you for sure, like, I don't have a manual. I don't know what I'm doing. You're asking lots of people, lots of opinions. But rarely are you actually talking about yourself and how you're feeling. You're just more so trying to fix the problem. Because I mean, that's all you're trying to do right now. You're just like, I just need at least an hour of sleep. That's all I'm just trying to do right now. Right. So
Exactly.
I mean, so a lot of the times it's like it's like the immediate thing that you're trying to solve for. And later, hopefully down the road, it becomes like you have more mental and emotional space capacity to start looking more outward of like, okay, my head's a little bit above water. Now I can start searching for community because community is crucial. Like that's one of my core values. And I mean, I honestly would not get through motherhood without my community of women that I have found in different parts and pieces of what I've been exposed to in places that I've been in. So that is absolutely like my best advice is find your community soon and work for it. Like it is work, it is hard, but it is so worth it. It's so worth it.
I find that so true. I mean, we are, as women, especially wired for community, but we've kind of like broken that down, that we like live in our little boxes, we drive our little cars, so we separate ourselves from everybody around us. And then, and I want to caution moms as well, as we do have that in our bodies, that we have that separation. And so it is, as Melina was saying, it is kind of, it's step by step. So it's not that you jump straight into it, because we need to take that armor off slowly, because it's been instilled. And I don't want you to forget that, because especially if you have been a mom for a while and you're just used to doing things by yourself and things like that, and it just becomes habit to undo those things. But again, if you want to live in that more aliveness, it really is through community and seeing that we aren't alone in all of this. I think that's where we struggle, is because like we know it, knowing and doing are just two different things. How do you address that?
What comes to mind for me is I actually heard Jenny Allen. She's a author and speaker and podcaster talk about this, where, 50, 100 years ago, people were living obviously closer together. And depending on where you live in the States, you still have close neighbors, but everyone has become very isolated in their own lives. And it's rare people ask for help. They feel a burden in asking for help, right? They go and get their groceries ordered versus, putting out their friend to go pick up some groceries for you, or like some medicine or something like that, right? So I think there's become this deconstructing a bit of even making it okay to invite in community by asking for help. Because again, I think it's that story as moms we tell ourselves is like, if I ask for help, that is a weakness, I am failing. When in reality, a lot of moms, people can say no. You can ask and they're like, I would love to, but just right now, like I've got 3 sick kids. We're trying to get the stomach bug out of our house. Can you ask me next time? Like, please ask me next time. They want to be asked. We want to be asked because it's a lot of us are just natural nurturers. And so when we feel like we are helping a friend out, it's a blessing to us too, because it's like affirming like she needs help too. It's not just me, and I can gift her that. And it feels good. You get that dopamine hit, just simply like helping somebody else out. And so it's this beautiful like cycle that happens because it's like you're inviting the vulnerability by even asking, right? It's a big deal for some people to even ask for help. And then you're inviting that community to come in and say like, I can't do this alone. I need some help. And then giving your friend that opportunity to gift that help and receive that help later. Because I promise you, if you're asking for help, you're going to want to give that help. And it just ripples. It just ripples everywhere in the community, because then you have all of these moms, all of these women really stepping in and helping everyone and not judging anybody about it. But it's making it this accepted and encouraged posture that we have for each other.
I love that so much, because it really does come down to the idea of asking for help. And when I think about it, I'm like, and many of you think about this question, is when you like someone asks you for help, you're like, oh yeah, if I can do it, I'm going to do it, right? But the hardest part is when you need to ask them. You're just like, I can't do that. But think about how you feel when someone asks you the next time you're scared to at least ask. And again, like Melina said, the worst thing that's going to happen is they'll say no, or not right now. I mean, that's generally usually, especially if it's a friend, that's the worst that's going to happen. But then that's still going to bridge the fact that you're being vulnerable and moving forward. And the more that we can just express the things that we need or feel, the better. And we'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to dive straight into the practicalities of how to declutter the house. Now, we've talked a lot about the mindset, but we're going to go into the actual details of what I know I needed. So that's why I brought her on. We'll be right back. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. And we're back. So really, we're going to dive straight into the practicalities. Okay, so if our house is just a complete mess, where do we start?
Yes. So I know that's the question of the day.
Right. I'm waiting for it.
So frankly, I was like, we need to start this one place first. So it's like, if you're overwhelmed, you're like, I don't even know where to start. the question I would ask you is like, what season of life are you in? That's my first question. And I know that seems like, why would you ask that question? But for me, when I work with people, it's asking what season of life are you in, because that will help gauge your capacity for this, right? It gives me a clue as to where actually are you in your life right now in season of motherhood. Because if you have a newborn and a 2-year-old, that decluttering is going to look very different. Versus you have a 13 and a 15-year-old, again, that's going to look very different. So honestly, it really truly depends on the season of life and motherhood, and just like what's happening in your life in general. So that will give me a lot of information in itself. So it's, what season of life are you in? Once we get that information and you're like, okay, summer's coming, I feel like I'm going to have some capacity. Where should I start first? Okay. So if you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, depending on how you want to do this, you can start 2 ways. Either you can start with something small, like a very small project, like a junk drawer, your purse, your nightstand, something that is an easy win that will help give you some momentum. And again, like, so when you declutter, you know, when you get the add the cart and people get that Amazon box, comes to their day in a couple of days, that dopamine hit that we get as moms, you get the same hit when you declutter, the more times you do it. So that's a little hack, like that's a lovely thing. So instead of just adding to cart, you just release things, and that'll help even more, like make you feel good. So these little wins will really help kind of add up and give you evidence, like your brain sees evidence that like, I can do this. I am starting to see a difference and feel a difference, and you'll just want to keep going. Or tackle your biggest pain point. So it's either start in that small micro bite-sized ways to declutter, or you start with like your biggest pain point. Maybe it is your toys. Maybe that's just been talking to you for like months and months and months. You're overwhelmed. You don't even know what color like the rug is anymore, because there's just toys everywhere all the time. You're afraid to go down there in the middle of the night because, I mean, like, don't go to barefoot because you're going to come back.
Well, except for those Legos.
Yeah. So it could be like, okay, so if you feel like you have the energy, the bandwidth, capacity, the time, then I would say to start with your biggest pain point, because that will, like, with the micro steps, the micro wins, that will just give you this slow momentum. Getting the big thing done will feel like, wow, like I can do this. I did this. Look how amazing this is. This has changed our day. So that's my bit of advice for where to start.
So we pick a spot. So actually, my kids are 13, almost 11, and almost 8. So kind of like right in the middle of what you said. Now, they're actually pretty helpful when I can like give them directions on what to do. So how do you suggest involving, like, giving clear directions to them, or what should, like, I think my biggest problem is struggling with delegation. And so in the process of, I'm sure I'm not the only one with moms who want it their way. So how do we involve the kids who can, whatever ages or however you want to answer the question, be part of this process as well?
Yes. So I think it depends on the mom. So it's the question of like, do you want your kids involved in the process? Because some moms are like, yes. Other moms are like, no. I want to do this in the middle of the night when they can't see what I'm doing, and it's just the least resistance, right? So it just depends. It depends on your family and how you want to do it. You could try both and see what works. Your kids are old enough that, well, they obviously will notice. Maybe the teenage word, I don't know, but like
maybe, who knows these days.
Depends on how much clutter there is. They will probably notice when things are leaving the house, right? So for your age group, depending on it is that you want to tackle, I would suggest to honestly have a family meeting to talk about it and to be like, okay, so guys, this is what we're going to do. Mom is looking to declutter and organize our books or our toys or your room or our living room, whatever it is that you're wanting to tackle first. Be like, okay, so I need your help. These are the things that we're going to go through and that we're going to do in this process. Out of these, steps, where would you like to participate? Where do you feel like you have a superpower here that you can help me with? Is it lifting the things, taking them to the car? Is it helping me sort items? Is it bringing the items and like dumping everything? Some kids love to make a mess, dump everything out on the floor, and you're in charge of like doing the dump part. And then somebody else is in charge of the sorting part. So I think it's helpful to like one, communicate to the kids, like, here's what we're doing and here's the purpose behind it and why we're doing it and how this ties into our values as a family and what we're hoping this is going to do for our family. Create more freedom, create more time and ease in our home. And it's going to also free up, in your space, putting whatever space you're actually going to declutter. It's like, this is what you're going to get a value add in your space too, right? That means less chores. I mean, right off the top, the ages of your kids, like, if we actually organize and declutter the space, that means less chores for you to do because there's going to be less stuff to pick up. So that's a win, right? So I think it just kind of depends on what is like how involved you want your kids to be, but having the communication is important. Telling them like the process, because my kids at least are very curious and they want to know everything, and then the outcome that you're looking for and like the steps that you want to get them involved with. If you have younger kids, it's going to be harder because usually the younger kids, they just create more of the mess. So that could be like a different game plan. And again, it depends on the family. So that's a different game plan. That might be like, I'm going to put on a movie. And this is what mommy's going to do over here in the other room while y'all are watching the movie. And we're going to go through all this stuff. Or yes, it's again, just kind of teasing out some different questions that could be helpful to have with kids depending on the ages that they are.
Now, what is the actual like process you recommend? So let's say you pick a junk drawer or a room, like what are the actual steps you do to actually, like you alluded to some of the ideas of what you do, but what do you have a system that you would do? Like, so if you pick a room, what are ways to actually declutter it?
Yeah. So each room is a little different because depending on the space, there's sometimes emotional things that can come up in this space. So for instance, like when you declutter a bathroom, it's very different than decluttering toys or your closet, your garage, like everything, like the dumpster fire of the garage, right? But
yeah, it's not my problem though.
But each space,
my problem is my husband works for Milwaukee Tools, so it's just full of tools.
Okay, yes, that's his space.
But that's his problem.
It is. It is. Well, and there's also like, we could get into organizing types as well. There's different types. There's 4 different types of organizing, the way that people kind of naturally organize in their brain. So that will also influence kind of more the, when we get to the organizing part. The declutter part, if that's what we want to touch on right now. So that part is pretty simple. And again, it depends on the space. Like, let's just say we're going to do a junk drawer, if that's where we want to start someplace small. So you get your junk drawer, get all the items out on the counter. It's probably going to take 15, 20 minutes. It shouldn't take super long. And then get your cleaners, your, little vacuum, because it's probably hasn't seen the light of day in a little bit. So clean everything out. And then when all of your items are on your counter, you're going to go through and make at least 3 piles. So it's going to be trash, and it's going to be donate and keep. And a junk drawer, there's probably not going to be a lot of donate items, but there could be some interesting items in there. So it's probably going to be either a lot of trash or a lot of keep items. So you go through, obviously it's trash, things that are broken, things that are missing pieces and parts, receipts that you have like, I don't need to keep these anymore. It's like from 5 years ago. So get rid of all of the trash items. And then when you're left with the donate items, you could see like, okay, like batteries, you can go donate those to like the local library, right? At least ours accepts batteries. If there's a lot of like craft things in there, you could be like, okay, this is a pile that I'm going to donate to our local school or someplace like that. So you have to kind of figure out like what items are left. Then your keep items, you've got your keep pile. Okay, once you have your keep items, then I want you to sort those. You're going to sort all the like items together. So you're going to sort all the pens together. You're going to sort all your cards, like those business cards you leave on your door. You're going to sort like any coins or change. People have that these days. Rubber bands, paper clips, whatever is in your drawer. Sort all the like items together. And then you're kind of going to do another like phase through of decluttering. because a lot of the times you don't even know what's in your drawer, right? So you're going to be like, okay, do I need 20 pens? How many of these pens actually work, right? So
None.
probably, probably not a lot. So it's trying out the pens that work, don't work. And it's also being like, how many pens do I want to keep up with in this drawer? Would 5 be enough? I know they grow legs, but like, would 5 be enough for right now to keep in this drawer? How many paper clips or rubber bands or cards or whatever I don't want to keep in this drawer? So that's kind of like the second phase of going through all your keep pile of seeing like, how much do I actually want to contain in this drawer and keep up with? Because more things are going to get in there at some point, right? That's just the law of attraction happens in your junk drawer. Things just come at it. It's just magnetized. So once you've kind of gone through that, you've cleared everything out, taken everything out, you've done your trash, donate, keep, you've gone through your keep piles, sorted all the keep like items together, see what you want to keep, put it back in your junk drawer. If you have little containers, that's great. If not, it's not a big deal. You can use rubber bands to tie all the pens together. Some people have little like bowls they can use. Honestly, I tell people like, don't buy things until after you've decluttered, because hopefully you're going to have less items to actually organize. Because most people, what they do is they kind of skip this. Like they'll take the trash stuff out and then they'll just organize what they have. They don't go through and actually declutter what they currently have and go through the keep items. They just keep all the things and don't take things out and remove them. So you could have, let's say you've got 20 pins in there. You can have like a backstock container somewhere else in your house. So it's like you can shop your stuff first. So if you've got whatever is left over that you're like, okay, here's what fits in this drawer. Great. That's all that I want in this drawer. That's all I want to see in this drawer. Everything else, if it's kind of office supplies or other items, then you can put that in the container and make it your backstock that you can shop later down the road when those pens grow legs and you can't find a pen any longer, right? Because that'll happen.
I love that so much. Well, we are running out of time a little bit, so we're going to go straight
Okay.
into our 5 questions. So what podcasts or resources helped you the most manage how being a mom and a business owner?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, there's 2 podcasts that I love that they've kind of been on repeat for years now. It's The Next Right Thing by Emily P. Freeman. And that's kind of more of like a personal one. I love her. Her voice is like an angel. She has a book too, The Next Right Thing. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. And then the other one is The Lazy Genius by Kendra Adachi.
I love that one.
Yes. So Kendra. So she's got a book too as well. And I love her because you get the organizing, the practical, and the tactical things from her as well. So those are my 2 favorite podcasts.
And then number 2, what are some of the fun activities that you guys do as a family to keep some joy going around?
Yes. So we actually adopted this during COVID, and we continue to do it. And it's our Friday night movie night. We love doing it. We get to have a great debate as to what movie we're going to watch this week.
Oh, those are so fun, aren't they?
They're so fun. So fun. And we get takeout, we get pizza, some burgers, and we just sit around and just watch the movie at night. And it's just, it's like a nice decompression from the week for us, right? It just kind of helps us like enter in the weekend in a nice, slow, lazy way. So that's one of our favorite things.
I love that. We do, when we say movie night, it's usually like get the pizza out and everything too, but we don't necessarily have a like system for it, but it's kind of like a reward now. The kids wanted to earn it and I forgot what they wanted to do, but yeah, it's kind of funny. It is a lot of fun.
It is.
And then number 3 is just my curiosity and trying to alleviate the idea of busyness from our vocabulary in terms, I feel like we hide behind it. Someone asks you how you're doing. I'm so busy, blah, blah, blah. And words matter, how we start to phrase things, and just this always feeling of need to go and go. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. How can you help to change that idea a little bit?
Yeah. A couple things come to mind. So one thing that I always encourage people is to figure out like what are some core key values for your family, and help that be a compass to the choices and decisions that you make as a family. So for us, again, community is very important as a family. So we prioritize spending time with friends, inviting them over, going to their house, doing park play dates, things like that. Sports, we do sports, but it is not a huge priority in our family. So you won't see us all day, every day at the baseball fields. Some people love that, and that's where they find their community too, which is amazing. So for me, I would say like the busy part of it, it's not busy if it's things that you were intentionally putting your energy into. And I think that's the big thing. It's like instead of just letting things come onto your calendar, it's being very intentional about like where am I actually letting things, allowing things, inviting things to be on my calendar, and that they deserve a place there, because my time and my family time is very important, and our days are very full. I like to use that word full versus busy.
I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's my best advice is just being very intentional about what you say yes to, because we all know, like when you say yes to something, you're gonna have to say no to something. So just being very protective of that time on your calendar and what you
I love
say
that
yes
so much.
Yeah.
So number 4, though, leads us into the idea of success. We all have this version that society tells us maybe, or that might be different for everyone else, but I want people to start like really defining it to what it means to you. So I'm curious what your definition is and how do you celebrate successes?
So apparently the universe is telling me something, because I have talked about this at least like 4 or 5 times over the last like week. And one of my to-do lists this weekend is to sit down and redefine success for this season for me. Because in all of those seasons of motherhood, success looked different as a working mom, a stay-at-home mom, as a homeschool mom, now as an entrepreneur mom. And so I'm going to tell you it's a work in progress. But what I do know right now is today, success means, again, going back to like what am I intentionally putting my energy into? And is it something that I enjoy and I love? Like we talked about this before we hit record, but like I love connecting with other women in this space. Like that's amazing to me. That's success for me, because I get to connect with another human, with your community, hopefully encourage and inspire them in some way. And I get to learn from you too. So that's success, I think, right now for me, to be continued. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And our last one is then how do you go about inspiring your kids to find their genius?
Yeah. So I think for me, what I do is just observe things. Like one of my kids is a glass half empty and the other one is a glass half full. So one of them is very good about speaking life over themselves and encouragement, and the other one needs a little bit more prompting and identifying, helping to support and scaffold them in that thinking. So for me, it's very much, again, the like words that you use are powerful. I deeply believe like the words that we speak over our children matter, just as we say them to ourselves, or the thoughts that we have in our heads and then we say it to ourselves unconsciously or consciously. It's the same thing that we speak over our children. So I think the more that we can identify and just observe and point things out to them, because it's a lot like us. Like a lot of times we don't even see our genius. We don't see how amazing we are as moms or as women. We really take that for granted, all of the gifts that we get to do and everything that we just move through our day magically, not without a lot of work, but a lot of things happen and get done. And I think the same thing with our kids is a lot of times they are blind to the things that make them unique and special. And so, yes. So I would just say, just kind of to observe and point those things out with them. But if I can, I'll add one last thing. So one thing we do at night at bedtime is we say our blessings as a family. And then I learned this from Jefferson Bethke. He's got a few books and he's an author and speaker as well. But like, we'll put in 3 things in their palm of their hand. I will speak 3 things about them, and then they put them in their heart. So I will say something like, you are brave, you are a leader, you are kind, and then they put them in their heart. And I do that for each of my children. And my youngest will do that for me. And I'll put that in my heart. So he'll name 3 things and put that in my heart. And so hopefully you're welcome to steal that. But it's just, they love that so much because it just affirms them. And again, it's one of those things that I see this in you, or I pray and hope to see this in you soon, right? This is growing in you. Yeah.
I love it. I actually saw a similar idea from Ed Milet from reading Worthy by Jamie Kern Lee, when she puts it in there, how he tells his daughter every day, Bella Boo, and just tells how brave and kind she is. So I ended up writing, and again, I just did it recently, so I don't actually have it memorized, but like I do one for each of my kids in the morning before they leave for school. And then I didn't even think it would happen, but my youngest then wrote one for me. Like I didn't even expect that. And then so she like took my phone because I still don't have, I just read them every day. And she took my phone and she typed one in for me that she reads
Oh
to
my
me every day.
goodness. What a
So it's
sweet.
just they take this on, and I just love that the more that we share this stuff with them. And actually,
Yeah.
I like really love that at the end of the night now that could give a closure as to starting something in the beginning,
Yeah.
starting something at the end. That
I
would be
love that
great.
at the beginning. I love that beginning. And I love so much because I mean, I feel like the reason she did that for you is because she felt that love from you, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to give that back to you. It's the same thing that we talked about earlier about this cycle.
Yeah.
It's like, I help you, you help me. Like we just continue to bring everyone up. Everyone rises to the surface. We just share all the love and encouragement. So I love that so
Yeah.
much.
And I just love, I mean, and I love the idea of just without the expectations. Cause like, I mean, I didn't like, but when we release the expectations, they rise up to it. More so than when we feel like, oh, well, you should have done that for me. And it's
Yeah.
just, if you want to give it, you give it from your heart, and it's end of story. And whatever, it just so much more comes back when it's genuine and vulnerable from where you're at.
Yeah.
On that note, tell everyone how they can get a hold of you and your final takeaway or one great hack from decluttering.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yes, Melina Kane. So you can find me at melinaKaneCoaching.com. I am on LinkedIn at Melina Kane. I'm on Instagram at Cultivate Your Legacy. Feel free. Like I said, I love to connect with people. So just shoot me a DM, a message. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. So one final tip or hack. Let me think about this. I'd say, okay, so here it is. This is more of a mindset thing. What I want you to just take away from this, I know there's lots of processes and things to do with how to declutter and organize your home. At the end of the day, like what's most important is how you are feeling and your energy. So no one is coming in and looking at like there's no dish police to see that all the dishes are cleared from your sink at the end of the night, or that there's no like toys on the floor, or that your beds are all made, or there's not like 10 laundry baskets sitting out. Like what I'd really want you to take away from this is like, yes, there are systems that you can put in place. There's things that you can do to support your life, but go take a nap, go take a shower, have a snack, warm up your coffee and sit down. All those things can wait, and nobody expects your house to be perfect. Like no one expects your house to be perfect. And this again goes back to like, if people come into your house, don't apologize. Don't apologize. They are there to see you. Like they are sincerely, truly there to see you and spend time with you. They don't care what your house looks like. They really don't. If they do, then they're not your friends, right? So invite people over to your house, encourage community, go take a shower, go take a nap, and just know that like it's just a season, right? It's just all seasons of life, all seasons of motherhood. And some seasons are a little bit easier to keep organized and others are not. And don't beat yourself about like, don't make it such a perfect, like have to be perfect all the time in this current season. So just give yourself a little bit of
I
wiggle
love that. And honestly, just remember what makes you happy and the more joy you bring. And honestly, let's do motherhood together because it's more fun. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much, Melina.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius. So I'm actually going to put you on the spot. We're still recording right now because I just want to go through the four types you were talking about. You alluded to earlier. I just want to make sure I have that in case we need it.
Okay. Yeah. So the 4 types are visionary, precisionist, strategist, and planner. So if I want to break those down just real quick. So there's kind of 2 categories that people fall into when it comes to the kind of organizer they are. And I have an organizing quiz. You can get it on my Instagram page or my LinkedIn page. So the visionary, all right, so the 2 buckets. You're the type of person that doesn't mind visual clutter, like the things don't really bother them. That's called visual abundance. Or you really like, when you see the clutter, it really stresses you out, and you like to see like clear counters. You like to see it very simple, like that's the visual simplicity piece. The other part is if you're a macro or micro organizer. So the macro people are those that they're very time efficient. They want to just kind of throw something in there. Those are like the big buckets of categories. The micro people, this is not me. These are the people that really like the small, like I'm detail oriented, but I need some, like time is my thing, right? So I don't have time to slot things out in these little different things. Like the micro people, those are like Marie Kondo kind of organizers where they like, it's like the category within the category. So you could have, you know, in your pantry, it's like, here's the snack category. And then within the snacks, here's just the granola bars. Here's just the chips. Here's just the things, you know, right? Versus like the whole container is like just a grab bag. Take, you know, it's a lottery. Go for it. So those are the kind of the two like big buckets. It's like the visual piece and like the kind of the macro micro organizing piece of it. And so within those, everyone kind of falls into those four categories depending on kind of what your preference is. And so the visionary is visual abundance. They're a macro organizer. The precisionist, they like visual simplicity, and they're a micro organizer. The strategist is visual simplicity. They're a macro organizer. And the planner is visual abundance and a micro organizer. And in the quiz, like when you go through it, it'll like, it's great because it tells you a little bit more about each one of those and also recommendations of like how to actually organize your home. Because that's honestly the biggest thing. Like people see like the home edit or Marie Kondo, and they're like, okay, so this is how I need to organize my home. And it's most likely like not what you naturally, like your natural default. And so you're spending all this money and all this time taking out all the rice and putting it in a container and like labeling it. And then like, what do I do with this other? Like I saw this video, like people like throwing out like their food because it didn't fit in the container. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not the purpose of organizing, right? We're not here to make another job for you to do. Like this should be like easy and simple. And so when you figure out your organizing type, it really helps take the weight off because you're like, oh, I get it now. And most likely your spouse and your kids are a different type too. Like, especially like your teens, now that they're getting a little bit older, more of their personality comes out, you'll probably be able to identify kind of what type they are. And it's usually the biggest thing is like the wife and husband are very different.
My littlest one, I think, is she actually just I used to fold. I was actually using the Marie Kondo folding thing. She just reorganized her closet. She did that on her own.
See that
after I showed her, like, I mean, we hadn't done it for years. Because it's probably 2 years ago that I was doing it. And then I kind of just like, she did her whole closet like that on her own.
Oh
my son is like in between. And then my middle daughter is like,
She's like, I can see it somewhere. I can find it. But see, isn't that crazy? But even it's like, because your daughter that can do the micro organizing, I mean, that is not me. I think that's amazing. But if you had her do it the other way, she probably wouldn't like it. She would actually start leaving stuff out because she wanted it to be like detailed in the organizing, and it would really actually bother her that it's not the certain way. That's what happens to a lot of people. Like, if you start having piles of papers everywhere, most likely it's because you don't have a system in place that your brain likes. That's like, okay, this is where it goes. And this is great for husbands because you don't have to be like the stuff keeper of everything. Hey, honey, where is this? I don't know. It's labeled. Can you go look for where the label is? You know, like you don't have to be the only one that knows where things are in the house anymore. So labels are your friend. But yes, yeah. So the organizing type is actually a really, really big deal. It'll help a lot with like just marital tension, just the tension all together in your home. And like going back to what you asked earlier about like how to get your kids involved, like that gives ownership back to them as to here's our system that we've created. Now we can tweak it if it doesn't work for us. We test it out. You're just collecting data. But when you've figured out the system that works for you, then it gives them ownership to take care of their own stuff. So you're not the one that's having to put everything away all the time. They get to take ownership. And kids, I mean, as young as 2 and 3 can start learning how to do that. Yes. So.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. And this time we will see you later.